Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome your beautiful faces back to another video on my channel. Mike Fear Clips back here today with hopefully something that is going to be a weekly series. It's going to depend on basically if I can actually catch the Inter game, if I see enough of the highlights. Preferably, I'll have watched it live so I can give, I could write down some first thought notes basically as I'm watching the game, as to what I think of it. But basically, yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know, I'm an absurd Inter fan. Been following the team since I was a kid. My father's an Inter fan. My cousins are Inter fans. A lot of people in my family are either Inter or Juve fans. I'm Inter fan, if you couldn't tell by the two Inter hats back there, the scarf up there. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so basically, I'm hopefully going to be able to turn this into a weekly series. Shooting for hopefully, midweek, something like that, around Wednesdays. Hopefully I can get this up, maybe even Sundays, depending on, when the game is itself. But being is that today's game, first game of the season, was on a Monday. That's when I'm recording it, a few hours after the game has ended. So yeah, basically what I'm looking forward to doing with this is just, break down the game, what I thought of it, hopefully from as neutral of a standpoint as I can be. It's going to be difficult. Fault me for that. There's nothing I can do. I'm an Inter fan end of the day. Basically, here are some of the highs that I thought were pretty good as far as how we performed, Inter themselves performed. Sensi, man of the match. Easily, man of the match for me. I think he had a breakout debut for us. He got himself a goal, pinged shots from outside the box. He was able to get in and out of, defenders with possession and feed the ball off to Lukaku or Martinez or Brozovic, who he's another one. He almost made the running. He made a very good attempt for man of the match for me. But I think Brozovic has been doing that kind of thing from, even last year. He had those kind of performances. He was absurd today as well. I'm still going to give it to Sensi. That might be because he's a newer player. It was his debut and everything, so slight bit of bias. But what else? Asamoah continued to impress me. Last year at left back, he was absurd. He was an amazing player. And I think him as a left wing back, he is going to be a very pivotal force in our attack as well as in our defense. You could tell that whether Conte had this tactic set out prior to the game or if it's just something that developed, the left side of our attack seemed to be the main route where all the balls went through. So, I mean, he was being left open, so if it was something that just happened over the course of the game, I wouldn't be surprised. But he impressed me as he did last year, and he's proving to be a very strong asset for us this year, or something that we can rely on, I should say. And then the obvious Lukaku Martinez partnership that some people, at first I thought it would be, I wasn't sure about it, to be honest, but to show that Lukaku arrived about 2.5 to 3 weeks ago. Martinez was with the national squad for, with Argentina, for Copa America, for, I don't want to say most of the summer, but a good portion of the summer, then came back, went on holiday, and then started to train with us. I think that they show very, very strong cohesion for having only even 2 weeks of having played together, or practiced together, I should say. Their interchangeability between the two, you'll have Lukaku making a run down the wing, the right hand side of the pitch, I should say, because he wasn't really out on the wing, and Martinez bombing down the center for a pass, or vice versa. Lukaku would be more centralized, and Martinez would be the one cutting in and out to open up space for Lukaku to possibly get a shot off, which eventually did end up leading to his goal, um, which we will get into. But I look forward to that through as the season progresses. I'm just very excited to see how they grow as a pair, because I think it's going to be a very deadly force if done correctly, which I have faith in Conte that it will. Um, and another thing that I need to address, um, Falcao was absurd for them. The amount of times that he would get the ball with even the slightest bit of space and just turn that into an attacking route, or or a danger for us, I lost count. He, I almost, I kind of feel bad that I haven't followed him up until now, but definitely be keeping tabs on him uh, as the season progresses. And of course, on the contrast, there are the lows right here that these are going to be more just for us as a team that I think we need to work on. So the lack of midfield and the lack of a midfield depth. Obviously, obviously, Conte has been wanting. He's been pushing for more and more center mid since he started. But Barella was his number one, basically midfielder option. Sensi was another. Um, you know, he still has the likes of Brozovic and um, Vecino as kind of like they know the team and they know how everyone plays kind of thing. So he definitely has that to his advantage. But there's still talks of him looking for there's still talks of him looking at Arturo Vidal of Barcelona as someone he could bring in possibly on a loan, kind of to shore it up a bit, and which kind of you know adds into the second point of a lack of like a holding CDM, which I know in today's game, at least for the bigger teams, that kind of a role doesn't exist anymore. Like your Conte, your Casemiro, they're attacking players essentially for the within certain limitations. Um, but like this, so good point. This is the formation that we started with. Um, but Vecino was kind of that role where he held back, whereas Brozovic and Sensi was basically playing as a cam. Brozovic was basically playing as a third striker in a sense, which worked. But I think we're gonna need somebody who sits back definitively, um, and kind of holds on to that bridges that gap between the defense and the midfield, just to shore things up against the top flight teams. So your Juves, your Romas, Lazio, uh, hell, even Fiorentina, teams like that. You're gonna need something a bit stronger, which I'm sure will come up, in Conte's post-match conference and all that. Um, so yeah, the one thing I was a little upset about was that Barella didn't start the match. I was really much looking forward to him. Obviously, I wanted to see Lukaku play and how he would do. He got himself a goal, first of many, hopefully. But I was really looking forward to Barella and seeing how he worked, basically. Which I saw something very interesting that Sensi actually. I'm curious to see how many touches and stuff that he got, because he was basically playing as almost a cam position for us. But then once Barella came on, of course Barella came on for Vecino, which I was happy to see. I don't think Vecino had the greatest game ever. I think he was almost not hard. He was easy to miss, but at the same time we were attacking a lot, so he was holding back a lot more compared to Brozovic and Sensi. So of course, he was naturally going to get less of the ball. But what I was interested to see that, and almost happy to see, was that when Vecino and Barella swapped, um, Barella basically took over that center mid high cam role, and Brozovic and Sensi kind of dropped back a bit more, which was interesting. Brozovic, obviously, he's almost like our natural CDM um, last year, and will probably continue to be so going forward, yeah, throughout the season. But Sensi, I know, obviously he can take shots. He was great at that today, but I'll be interested to see if that's something that, like, going forward, that we continue to do, or if he remains more of like a drifting center mid. Um, uh, Obviously he was taken out shortly after for Gagliardini, which that was definitely more of like a defensive sub. Gagliardini really doesn't push up all that much, so him holding back was to be expected. Brozovic at that point, although he did have a few more shots, one that I thought had gone in from the left hand side of the box. A curling shot that just went wide, right hand side of the post. I believe that was before. That might have been before Politano's disallowed goal that Lukaku interfered with. Um, but yeah, so it's definitely interesting to see the. I know I said earlier that we have a lack of depth in the midfield, but it's also interesting to see that the depth that each individual player in our midfield has. Um, and then the last thing is that Politano came on as a substitute for Martinez, which I think he played outstanding as well. Martinez, that is. Um, he, he was able to get in behind a lot. He was able to set up Lukaku a lot. Like I said, in the highs of the game, they were definitely very interchangeable about who was assisting who and who was setting up who, stuff like that. So that was good to see. I wish he would have bagged himself a goal to kind of like, help him. I thought his performance definitely warranted a goal, but 4 goals on the night, I won't complain about that. Um, but yeah, when Politano came on, it was almost like, I know he can play striker. He has for us in the past. Last year he played preseason. I believe he had some time at striker as well. But when he came on, the attacking dynamic kind of shifted a bit. Asamoah, of course, was still pushing up the left hand side, and but on the right, it was weird. You had Barella, who was kind of like floating throughout the midfield, which, that, to be fair, that could be a tactic that Conte told him to do, kind of like not to stick too much to one position, just float from side to side, which again I'm fine with. Candreva was still out on the right side, but he almost held back a bit, so it was almost like they reverted to like the left side of the pitch where Samoa was. They were still playing a 3-5-2, but on the right side they were playing like a 3-4-3 in a sense, um, with without the left striker, without the left wing. I'm sorry, Lukaku dead center by himself, and then Politano as right wing with Candreva behind him as right mid. It was strange. Whether that was something that was discussed prior, or if that's just Politano falling back to something that he feels comfortable with on that right hand side. Um, Obviously it was the first game, so there's still a lot of things that you can hammer out going forward. There's still, of course, the rumors and speculation that we should be getting Alexis Sanchez. So that could have been something. Maybe Sanchez can be brought in as a replacement for Martinez or for Lukaku, or wherever. But that's definitely something I'm gonna put that in the low. It's not so much a bad thing. It's just, if Politano is gonna be brought on as a direct replacement for Martinez, I would like to see him stay more central than he did, basically. Um, but yeah, like looking at the stats of the actual game itself, we had 24 shots, 8 on target. I'm assuming that this would have been 9 and 25 if, obviously, if Politano's goal had stayed. Um, I thought it was a gorgeous goal, well worked. Kind of upsetting to see that it got pulled back for Lukaku's interference call, but that's just that's just the way it goes, I guess. Sometimes love the possession we had, especially early on in the game. That's something that I will talk about in kind of like my final thoughts of the game. But I thought possession in the first half, I thought we played very, very well. Second half definitely slowed it down a bit, which to be expected. We're not really used to playing that high level, intensive attacking style football. So it's to be expected that we were kind of going to wear a bit, but at the same time, we didn't fault in defense, which I think is huge. Um, it was great to see an Inter game where no one gets sent off, of course. Um, I really thought, especially when your striker gets carded earlier on in the game, you always fear that something stupid is going to happen, or he might lose his temper and he might get sent off. So I'm very happy to see that that wasn't the case. The red card, however, for them, um, eh, did I think it was a red card going into it? I'll be honest, no. I thought, definitely at first, like when I watched it live, I definitely thought, yellow card maybe, but then they show it a couple more times. I, he definitely raked the back of his leg. He definitely went in with the intent to take him out. So it's one of those things. Like, it didn't even go to VAR. It was just straight red decision, which of course you never really want to see with in a game. You do feel bad. You don't really go out hoping for someone to attempt to play like that or tackle like that, especially against one of your own players. But unfortunately, it is what it is. It's um, I don't think that ruined the game. A lot of times with fouls like that, if a ref is kind of quick to throw up a card, he'll give someone a card like that. It kind of kills off the game. I believe at that point it was already at that point it was 3-0. So I don't think that killed off the game in any way. I think the game was well and truly put to bed at that point. Um, but yeah, top of the table. I mean, obviously it's only the first game of the season, but you know, this is where the table stands as of right this very second. Obviously, this time next month this will be completely different, but this is where we're sitting at the moment. If the season were to end right now, I wouldn't complain, but um, yeah, I mean, so basically just some quick final thoughts. It was an impressive game. Granted, I know Lecce was a newly promoted side. They just came up from Serie B. They finished second. Um, but needless to say, I think they were very impressive, especially before we had gotten that first goal, before Brozovic's goal, which was gorgeous, by the way. Um, before that, they were definitely doing well to, they were definitely doing well to push forward. I think the Lapadula and Falcao combo was a very deadly force. I really think Falcao and Lapadula are going to do really well for themselves in Serie A. If they continue to play the way they did today, they're just going to get better. But yeah, it was definitely clear to see the Conte effect, if you will, in full force. Like last year, if a play would almost peter out from the attack and we'd kind of like lose possession, the play would just die, and then we would wait for the defense to hopefully regain the ball, and it would start again. Whereas today, it almost Sensi didn't allow that to happen. Martinez would drop back to a place where Sensi was. Sensi would go, fight for the ball back. So it was definitely good to see that attacking like constant pressure attacking style that Inter really aren't outwardly known for in a sense. Um, the depth in the midfield is something that I think we need to address hopefully soon. Um, I know there are still some people on the table. There's still Dybala, Alexis Sanchez, Vidal, DePaul is another one that I don't think we need. I think as far as attackers, another one, because from the looks of it, Icardi is apparently staying, so could be an option off the bench almost. But I do think a Vidal style player would definitely help in our team going forward. Um, the one thing I can say is that when Lecce did manage to string together a couple passes again, usually coming from Falcao and Lapadula, it scared me a bit. It was definitely well worked, and I'm obviously happy for the result, for the clean sheet that we managed to keep. But they definitely had some. It was just kind of like that final third they needed to work on. But other than that, I thought they were pretty well worked attacks. Um, speaking of the midfield defense, or depth rather, our depth in defense it made me very happy to see that. Unfortunately, Godin is still injured. De Vrij, I believe he might have like, some muscle soreness or something like that. That's why he didn't play. But I was thrilled to see how well Skriniar, D'Ambrosio, and Ranocchio work together. I think that's definitely going to be important considering we're going to have Serie A, Coppa Italia, and Champions League to compete in this season. So definitely, when you're playing a back three like we will be, it's going to be important to have that kind of depth. But I definitely like that. Going back to what I said about the lows of the game, seeing how obsessed Conte was with bringing center mids in definitely is warranted now. You can see the lack of, I guess for lack of a better phrase, like the lack of skill coming out of our midfield. Um, Obviously Sensei and Brozovic were on another level today, but I mean in the sense of like someone who just stays in the center of the pitch. Brozovic and Sensei kind of like pushed up. They were almost like another cam and another striker and a cam for us today, until obviously the substitutions happened. But I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see what the team looks like in like a month once the window closes. Once there's another week as of recording this video. So it'll be interesting to see in a week and a half to 2 weeks what our final squad starts to look like once that starts to take shape. Once people start getting into form almost, and some players come back like Godin and De Vrij. Once we get Lazaro to get a couple reps in, I really do look forward to the future of this club and this season and what where we go from here. That's basically it for me. Like I said at the beginning, I'm hopefully going to be able to keep this as regular as possible every week. It's all going to depend on if I can watch the game live. I would rather do a video based on my live reaction so I can kind of take notes while I'm watching the game. So I get like my immediate thoughts in the moment. But yeah, it feels great that the season's back undergoing. I'm so excited for Conte and for Lukaku and for all the other new guys to basically show their ability, and I'm just so excited. But yeah, that's gonna be me for the video. We'll see you guys next time.